started here, but before we do, I just want to ask the audience if everybody can hear me okay. Sorry for that little bit of a delay. I was having some audio issues. If people wouldn't mind just putting into the chat, can you hear me? I've got a hello from our Puerto Rico friend, Portugal, Minnesota. Can anybody hear me? Justine, would you
really
mind throwing in
garbled,
the
so let me
chat
just
just
go
to
ahead and take
see if
over.
anybody can chime in? Still? Okay.
All right. Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear us. Can you give us a thumbs up or type in that you can hear us? We're really excited to start today. Today, we're really excited to have Dr. Addie Reinhard, who is the founder and CEO of MentorVet. And today she's going to be talking about how to select the mentor that's right for you. Cappy, go ahead and advance the slides. All right. First of all, just so we can know where our audience is coming from, do you guys mind typing in where you're coming from? I already see our dedicated Jose from Portugal. Type in where you're coming from, what the weather's like, and if you get good mentorship and how you go about doing that. So let's go ahead and type that in. In the meantime, I'm going to pass it over to Dr. Reinhardt to introduce herself. So Addie, go ahead and take it away. Why don't you do the first intro and then I'll go next.
All right. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here joining in from Lexington, Kentucky, and excited to be talking with you all today about mentorship.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Addie. I'm Justine Lee. I'm the director of medicine and the co-founder of VETgirl. I'm coming from St. Paul, Minnesota, and it's a balmy 80 degrees today. I apologize. Dr. Amy Kaplan's sound is a little bit off, so I'm going to do your intro for you. She's part of our amazing VETgirl team, and she's coming from Omaha, Nebraska. So before we begin, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Blue Buffalo for sponsoring today's YouTube live event. For those of you guys who've never been on a YouTube live event before, this qualifies as 30 minutes of CE. Now, in order to get your CE, you do have to scan this code. And if you're not sure, you can go ahead and type in tinyurl.com/VG5625. And that's going to take you to a form that you have to fill out to get your continuing education credit. So I'll have Dr. Kaplan type that into the chat later. But if you can go ahead and just scan that with your phone or make sure to type that in, this form will only be open for 30 minutes after the end of today's YouTube live event. And make sure to register with your email address associated with your account on VETgirl because your CE certificate will automatically upload there. All right. Moving on from the next logistic, we're going to advance to the next slide. And for those of you guys who don't know, you can just go ahead and click the little button on the right side to make this whole YouTube live screen a little bit bigger. I don't know about you guys, but my eyes aren't working as well as they used to. So go ahead and do that just to make sure that you can see really well. All right. Before we get started, because this is live, this does count as free interactive CE. Cappy, can you go back one, please? This counts as live interactive CE. So you don't have to take a quiz. If for some reason you have any questions, you can always contact us through our customer service. And when in doubt, you want to check My Credits when you log in with the right email address under your account, and you'll find your CE certificate there. All right, last few logistics before we get our learning on. We have over 150 hours of live CE every single year, and that's race approved for both vets and vet techs. You can learn through webinars, videos, real life rounds, blogs, free podcasts, these amazing YouTube live events thanks to sponsors. If you don't want to do that, you can simply read our Cliff Notes, what we call our e-magazines, our ebooks. We also have a forum where you can ask questions to different specialists. And we also have a CE content management platform where you can manage all your CE and your number CE certificates directly within our account. For those of you guys who aren't already members, it's $269 for an annual membership, when in doubt, you can check out our website for more information. I wish I can say that you can join us in person in Nashville, but we are completely sold out. So we're going to have 800 veterinarians, 200 veterinary technicians, over 50 exhibitors. So we're really excited to see a lot of you guys in about 50 days. And with that, I'm super excited to pass it on to Dr. Addie Reinhard, who again is going to be talking about mentorship and why this is so important. Dr. Reinhard, thank you so much for joining us today. Blue Buffalo, huge shout out for offering this 30 minutes of CE free. And Dr. Reinhard, with that, I'll let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for joining today. Mentorship is something that's been very important to me throughout my career. I graduated from vet school in 2015. I practiced for 4 years doing small animal work in the Lexington, Kentucky region. And through my career, I experienced pretty severe burnout a few times. And if it weren't for the mentors that I had both in and out of practice, I don't know that I would still be in this profession still. And so mentorship can make such a difference in our personal and professional lives. And my story, I think, proves that. And for a lot of other fellow early career veterinarians, I know that mentorship can be so important and can kind of make or break you in those early career points. And so after getting through burnout the second time, I really felt this calling to be able to help others and create more networks for mentorship and provide more support for maybe those people who didn't have access to good mentorship. I know that a lot of my classmates didn't have good mentors in their practice like I did. And so I really felt this calling to be able to give back by creating some support structures for people in the profession. So I went back to school at University of Kentucky. I got my master's degree in community and leadership development. I spent 2 years researching veterinary well-being, and more importantly, what can we do about it? How can we prevent burnout? How can we support one another in the profession? I also completed my veterinary human support certificate at the University of Tennessee, and I got my graduate certificate in college teaching and learning during this period as well. And as I was working on my master's project, I developed a mentorship program. It was a 6-month program designed to provide both professional skills training to give you essentially some skills to navigate some of the common challenges and stressors that you're experiencing, as well as access to peer group mentorship. We find, and we'll talk a little bit about it later, but we find that one of the most effective forms of mentorship is actually peer group mentorship. And so we will be talking a little bit more about that in just a minute. And now I am, after my grad school program, essentially am expanding this to reach more people. So I founded MentorVet in 2021. We have now helped thousands of people in the transition to practice. And not only that, but as we were helping early career vets transition into practice with our mentorship programming, we recognized that veterinary technicians needed support and mid-career veterinary professionals needed support. So what started off as really supporting early career vets and creating a national mentorship program became giving all veterinary professionals the tools and the skills that they need to be successful in the transition to practice. So that's my full-time job now, is supporting individuals in the transition to practice, as well as other veterinary professionals, including vet techs, mid-career vets, veterinarians who are later in their careers, who are mentoring. And we have a full-time team of 3 people now that are helping support all of these individuals. We work with mental health professionals as well. And so we know a lot about mentorship because we've been doing this for quite some time. So as we move forward in the presentation, I will be talking a little bit more with you about how to find a good mentor. Before I get into the content, though, I do want to say a quick shout out to Blue Buffalo. Not only are they sponsoring this webinar today, this YouTube Live, but they also support the work that we do at MentorVet. They sponsor scholarships to go through our programs so that people can have free access to our programs. So they've been a huge supporter in veterinary well-being and mental health, and really am grateful for the support of the individuals over at Blue Buffalo. So let's get into some of our content. So, mentorship, I think, is often thrown around as a term. And it's interesting because I don't think that we have a shared common definition of mentorship in the veterinary profession. And so in this presentation, we're going to talk about essentially the who, what, when, where, why of mentorship, so that you can get a better idea of what is mentorship and where can you find it and how can you find a good mentor. So we're going to start with talking about the why of mentorship. So why is this so important in veterinary medicine? So we know that the veterinary profession can be challenging and stressful. We know that burnout is prevalent in our profession. Burnout tends to increase as age decreases. So for our youngest veterinary professionals, they're experiencing the highest rates of burnout, as well as our veterinary team members. But it's estimated that for veterinarians who've graduated within the past 5 years, as well as veterinary technicians, are experiencing about 75% of them are experiencing moderate to severe burnout. So we know that this improves as age increases, but we still have challenges with burnout throughout the entire profession. If you look at that bar on the left, you'll see that over half of veterinary professionals are experiencing moderate to severe burnout. And we know that mentorship has the potential to impact burnout. And so we did a study to essentially look at burnout measures before and after a 6-month mentorship program. And what we found is that essentially any mental health measure that we looked at significantly improved over time. And so mentorship has the potential to not only improve mental health and create, individual health and support, but also in turn, if you are happier and healthier at work, that also helps the practice and the business and the veterinary industry as a whole. So mentorship becomes so vital at every stage of our career. So next, we're going to talk about the what of mentorship. So essentially, what is mentorship? I mentioned that there's not a common definition of what mentorship is. I pulled a definition from online. So this is a definition from some dictionary. So it says the activity of giving a younger or less experienced person help and advice over a period of time, especially at work. And it's really interesting because, when I look at this definition of mentorship, I feel like it doesn't encompass everything that mentorship could be and everything that mentorship is becoming and how it's evolving. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about how we see mentorship evolving within the veterinary profession. So we're going to get into the when of mentorship. When can you get a mentor? Who is it reserved for? So as I was preparing a presentation for some veterinary students to talk with them about mentorship, I wanted to give them a framework to better understand what mentorship is and how to seek it. And so if we look at mentorship across this life stage of the veterinary professional, we're going to look at kind of your lifespan from your pre-formal training. So this is before formal schooling, before vet school or before vet tech school, your formal training. So while you're in school, your early career, your mid-career, and your late career. And when I ask veterinary students or veterinary technicians, what is mentorship and who normally gets it? And most of the time, what I hear from veterinarians is, oh, mentorship is getting support from somebody in your practice. Typically, it's somebody more experienced than you. Typically, it's focused on medical skills, and that's the backbone of mentorship in our veterinary profession. I think we've been doing this well for quite some time. This kind of traditional aspect of mentorship in medical skills, this traditional aspect of mentorship and getting support from somebody more experienced than you. But I will say there are a lot of other forms of mentorship that are equally, if not more beneficial sometimes than traditional mentorship. And so as we look at how mentorship is evolving, I want you to think about not only how are you seeking mentorship from individuals who are maybe more experienced than you, but how are you seeking mentorship from your peers? Oftentimes, peer mentorship we see from the research is one of the most effective forms of mentorship. So when you get support from somebody who's going through the exact same situation as you, so for our veterinary students, if they're getting mentorship from fellow veterinary students, that's probably going to be a lot more effective. And for our early career vets starting out, if they're seeking support from a fellow early career vet, oftentimes that helps you feel validated in what you're experiencing and you're actively going through it. And so you can problem solve together on some of these issues. So I think that as you're thinking about where to seek mentorship, not only look for people who are more experienced, but also look for those peer colleagues around you. But it's not just peer mentorship that we have. We also can receive mentorship from people who are less experienced than us. So reverse mentorship is essentially receiving mentorship from people who don't have as much experience, but oftentimes have a lot to teach us. And so when I mentor early career veterinarians now, I'm 10 years out from practice. And when I talk to new grads or vets who have been out for about 2 years, I learned so much in this mentoring process, almost more than I feel like I'm giving them. And oftentimes we see this mentorship as a two-way street. And a lot of times if we are as mentors willing and able to learn from our mentees, then they'll be more willing and able to learn from us. And so it creates this cycle of learning. So if we layer on, let's keep going with these layers of mentorship and how it's evolving. Not only can you receive support and mentorship from individuals within your career path, so veterinarians receiving mentorship from veterinarians, we can also receive mentorship from fellow team members. So I received some fantastic and phenomenal mentorship from veterinary technicians in the practice. I've received phenomenal mentorship from people who aren't even veterinarians. Maybe that's a practice manager or a business owner. And so I think opening our perspective to see that a mentor is not only someone who's in your same career path, but it can be a veterinarian mentoring a veterinary technician or a veterinary technician mentoring a veterinary assistant. So thinking about the entire veterinary team. If we expand it out even more broadly, we also know that we can get support from the individuals around us. So from our support network, building this network of friends, family, and loved ones that we can seek support from, especially when our career gets challenging. And we can also seek support from mental health professionals. Who better to help support you in a transition period of your career than a mental health professional who can give you personalized recommendations on how to cope with some of the stressful experiences that you're having. So definitely look into seeking support from mental health professionals. In addition, you can do some mentorship yourself. So self-mentorship and seeking professional development, kind of like attending this webinar today, is a form of self-mentorship. So seeking out resources and building your toolkit and maybe things that you don't feel as confident in can help you navigate your career even more. So as we're looking at this huge, aspect of mentorship, one thing I always encourage people is it's not just in your practice happening. If you can seek somebody outside your practice, they can be such a helpful third party because they're not, there's no power dynamics. It's not your boss and your mentor. Sometimes I felt really uncomfortable asking my boss, who's my mentor, a question if I was having a conflict with a team member. And I wanted to talk to somebody outside of the practice first. And so I really encourage you to also think outside the box and connecting with other professionals who aren't within your clinic as well. And so what this leaves us with is this wonderful, supportive ball of mentorship that I like to call your mentor network. And so if we build all these connections, and as you're looking for mentors, don't just look for one mentor, look for how you can build and establish a mentor network. Because if any one of these relationships or strands breaks, you aren't going to be flat on your face on the floor. You're going to still be supported. And so really developing this supportive ball of mentorship and a great mentor network is the best way to go. So we're going to talk a little bit more about potentially the definition of mentorship. So this is how we define mentorship at MentorVet, taking into account how mentorship is evolving in the veterinary profession. So veterinary mentorship to us is the network of mutually beneficial relationships in which time, energy, and knowledge are invested to support personal and professional development of a veterinary professional throughout their entire career. So essentially breaking this down, it's a network of people. They're mutually beneficial relationships. We're investing our time, our energy, and knowledge, and we're supporting one another not only personally, but also professionally. And it's not just limited to veterinarians. It's for all of the team, and it's throughout our entire veterinary career, not just at the early career point. So this definition of mentorship to us encompasses what veterinary mentorship can be and how we can receive it throughout our career. So let's get into the details about who. And I think that's probably why you came to this talk today, because it was how to choose the right mentor. So let's talk a little bit about who you might seek mentorship from. So when I talk to anybody about mentorship, I often recommend that you have at least 3 mentors. I want you to have somebody in your practice that can give you support on site. I want you to have somebody outside of your practice that can give you that safe third-party perspective. And then I want you to have somebody that's a peer who's going through a similar situation as you. And if you build this and you start this network, this will really help you in a lot of different ways. And I think you'll find that having multiple connections will help support you in different ways. What you get from in-hospital mentorship is going to be different than what you get from peer mentorship. And remember, this can be not only from fellow veterinarians, but it could also be non-veterinarians or other veterinary team members. So seeking support from really anybody in the profession as you're going forward. So where do you get this mentorship, and where is this magical mentor out there that exists? And sometimes it requires some networking and involvement and getting yourself out there. And it's funny because veterinary professionals veterinarians tend to be more introverted than the general population. I've been doing work on the Merck well-being study now for the past 4 years. And we know in research that veterinarians are more introverted than the general population. So sometimes the networking and the actually finding a mentor is the most uncomfortable part, because it actually requires you to put yourself out there and build relationships and meet people. So I would recommend seeking out mentorship on social media. Oftentimes there are veterinarians that want to connect using platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram to meet up with fellow professionals and schedule some time to chat. Going to conferences and attending networking events can be huge for building your network, and getting better involved in some of your organizations, both locally or nationally, can really get you into the fold of meeting people who might serve as a really good mentor. So these are just a few of the places that you might start to look for a mentor. I'll also mention here in the United States, we partner with the AVMA. We have a free mentorship platform for anybody who's graduated within the past 10 years who's an AVMA member. So it's essentially this network of 500 mentors that you can have free access to and search for a mentor. So if you're interested in that program, definitely check that out through AVMA. If you're looking for a mentor in practice, I always recommend don't skip the working interview. You want to make sure that the person that you're going to be working with is truly a good fit. It can be helpful to speak with other vets in the practice to learn kind of how this person mentors and if they will be a good mentor for you. And if mentorship is promised, be sure to ask questions and get specific on this, and consider developing a mentor agreement. And it's so helpful, and I'll just quickly move through some of these helpful questions. But if you're promised mentorship, be sure that you're asking, what does this look like? Is it formal or informal? How does your practice mentor? What types of resources are available? Who's going to be my mentor? Are there written protocols? What does my first few months look like onboarding into this practice? And I think if you ask and get really specific on kind of what is expected of mentorship in that practice, it'll help make sure it's the right fit as you're entering into the practice. And if there's not a formal mentorship program at the practice, that's okay. You can create your own mentorship program in collaboration with the practice. So you can ask, if you're entering into a new position, hey, I want to make a mentorship program for myself as I'm entering in. Can we set up weekly check-in times? Can we set some goals together to help support me as I'm getting acquainted with this practice and making progress towards those goals and checking in and reflecting? So as we're closing, I just wanted to mention that we do have some helpful resources. We send out a monthly newsletter. We don't spam, but we do some helpful tips about mentoring. And sometimes we have scholarships available to participate in all of our programs. So this is the way to stay tuned in to what we're doing at MentorVet. You can either go to mentorvet.net/mailing list, or you can scan the QR code on the screen to sign up for our mailing list. That's the way that we communicate everything that we do. So we hope that you sign up for our newsletter. At this point, I'm going to open it up to a few questions, and I see a few questions coming into the chat. And if we don't get a chance to answer your question, feel free to send me an email at info@mentorvet.net. Happy to respond. Or if you have a question, maybe you're not comfortable asking in front of the full group, and you want to send me a personal message, send it to my email that I posted there. If you want to learn more about the work that we're doing at MentorVet, visit mentorvet.net or follow us on social media. Thank you so much. And I hope this was helpful in learning how to find a mentor and hopefully evolving your definition of mentorship in the veterinary profession.
Thank you so much, Addie. That was fantastic. Love the content. Love what you do. Before we get to the questions, a couple of last minute logistics. Don't forget to get your CE certificate. Scan this QR code, or again, go to that tinyurl.com/VG5625. It's in the chat. You want to fill that out within the next 30 minutes. Otherwise, you won't be able to get 30 minutes of CE for that. And again, make sure to register with your CE certificate email associated with your VETgirl account. With that, we wanted to give a huge shout out to Blue Buffalo for being able to provide so much educational content. If you guys aren't aware, they're also sponsoring an amazing, free, huge dermatology certificate this year. That's one free webinar a month since the beginning of the year. And you also can view it for the whole year of 2025. All right, Dr. Reinhard, let's get to some questions. We have one question. How do you get the person you want as a mentor to become your mentor if they're just not into it?
Yeah, so it's a tough question because I feel like mentors have to be willing and able and have the time and capacity to mentor. And so I think, if you find somebody that you're really interested in being your mentor and you ask them to be your mentor and they just don't have the bandwidth, there's only so much that you can do there, right? They have to be willing and able. And because it's a mutually beneficial relationship, not everybody is going to want a mentor. And so trying to find the people who are really passionate about mentoring, that want to give their time and energy back. And there are those people out there. It sometimes just takes some searching.
All right. Thank you so much. Now, everybody hopes that mentor is for life. What if that connection is somehow broken and you decide to change a mentor? How do you do that without hurting the original mentor?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great question. Because, right, we evolve and change as people. And you think that, you enter into a practice and this person is going to be your mentor forever. And it just doesn't always work out that way. Maybe it's not the best fit for you. Maybe it's not the best fit for them. And I think being able to have candid and open conversations with them, around how you're both feeling in the relationship. And I think this is where like regular check-ins with your mentor to say, how's this going? Like, is this relationship going well? Or having regular checkpoints at 6 months, a year, 18 months to talk about like, hey, am I still the right person to be your mentor? Because sometimes I have mentees that grow on past me and I'm not the right person to be your mentor anymore. And so I think just having those open communications between mentor and mentee are huge.
All right. Here's another question. If after you initiate a mentoring program, you come to a conclusion that it's not the right mentor for you, again, how do you proceed without compromising? I think you brought this up to a degree about it, how it's really important to have open communication in those check-ins, but anything else to add on that?
Yeah, I think just knowing that it's okay that it doesn't work out. Like, it's almost, well, we can draw some parallels to dating, right? Like, you don't go on one date and expect this one person to be your forever person. Like, that very rarely happens. And so just like mentorship is just like any other relationship, in that some people are going to be a really good fit and we're going to learn and grow from them. And they're going to be our mentor for a really long time. But other people, it might not be the right fit, and that's okay. And it's okay to move on and find somebody else that might be a better fit for you. I think as long as you're having those open conversations with them of, hey, I don't think this is the right fit. And sometimes you could say, hey, I don't think this is the right fit because I'm not getting these things that were said to me. And maybe they can make changes. And a lot of this has to do with like, maybe the mentor is willing to grow and change to help you more. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Awesome questions. I am going to say, from the perspective of someone who has been the mentor for a lot of interns and residents, the onus also doesn't fall just on the mentor.
Yeah.
A lot of it falls on the mentee,
Correct.
in that you have to be hardworking. You have to have open lines of communication. You have to be willing to put in the dedication. You have to be willing to put in, um, be willing to accept feedback.
Yeah.
And there's some things etiquette wise, especially in a busy ER, that will drive your mentor nuts. And one of them is, while it's really important to learn on the fly, is when that person medical versus communication growth or areas like that. So I do think it's really important that we always focus on what we can do, both as a mentor and a mentee,
Yes.
to improve. I think that's really key. Otherwise, it really does minimize that. And being I think is really important. And the one thing I can say in the ER that is frustrating is veterinary medicine. There's so many ways of doing things. And so I think the key thing to remember is, in veterinary practice, it's called practice. It's not law, right? Because we all practice differently. And I know for me personally, it was really frustrating as a mentor where, if you ask me for advice and then ask the three other criticalists and sort of are hemming and hawing which advice you want to take, that's a waste of everybody's time. And then I get frustrated as a mentor. So I think it is really important that there be open lines of communication. But how do you handle situations like that? Like, what do you advise for both the mentor and the mentee in that situation?
Yeah, I think it's good for our mentees to learn from multiple people, but especially there's a time and place for it, right? And so I think sometimes the best mentors are the ones who can push us out of our comfort zones and like make us be a little bit more autonomous. I think I had a mentor one time because I just like call her all the time, and eventually she's like, Addie, why do you keep calling me? Like, I always give you an answer, and you always have the right answer. Essentially, I don't add anything else. So she's like, you can stop calling me, and it just like helped push me a little bit. And so I think oftentimes for like interns, residents, early career veterinarians, the best thing that we can do to support them is also help them start to get to think on their own, right? And I think that's what you're talking about, that confidence of that, like, I'm going to ask this person, I'm going to ask this person, I'm going to ask this person. It's great to seek mentorship from multiple people, just because you're developing your own way to practice medicine. But if it's like busy and crazy hectic, maybe that's not the right time. And maybe you have some sit down time with those people or somebody outside your practice that you can answer all these questions to and process. But I do think, having times and places for mentorship and structures to where the mentor and the mentee don't feel like they're getting their time wasted.
Great point. All right. One last question. The mentor mentee relationship should be faced as a team, right?
Yes, definitely. I think when I either am a mentor or mentee, sometimes the roles even get blurred. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm a mentor or mentee anymore, because the best mentor mentee relationships are ones in which we're both learning and growing together. And it's definitely a team sport. And the more that you can find people that will collaborate with you and listen to you and learn from you, either as the mentor or the mentee, those are the most helpful relationships.
Awesome information. Love what you do, Addie. Super appreciative of it. Huge shout out again to Blue Buffalo. Make sure to thank them the next time you see them. And again, don't forget to fill out that form. And with that, we're going to end it. Again, that form will be open for about 27 more minutes. And otherwise, we will see you on the next VETgirl event. And thank you for all that you guys do. I know it's super busy in clinics, super busy in life, between balancing everything. And we hope you guys are doing okay. And just wanted to thank you for all that you do too. With that, thank you, everyone. And we'll see you on